Good evening, I'm Zach Walford and welcome to The County Show. Yes, this is The County Show and today we are visiting the jewel of the South East, the Garden of England, the lovely county of Kent. In today's show, we'll be looking at wonderful street performance culture on the streets of Canterbury. We'll also learn how to bake a classic Kentish treat, and we will even have a live performance from an up-and-coming Kent talent. But first, we'll be taking a look into the ancient history of Kent and some exciting archaeological finds.
Welcome to Kent, the Garden of England, famed for its beautiful countryside, ancient architecture, and for being the shortest crossing to Europe. However, what lies buried in the archives of Kentish history? Andrew Richardson from Canterbury's Archaeological Trust is here to tell us more about Kent's forgotten past.
The earliest evidence for early human activity in Kent is up at Swanscombe, which is near Dartford. And we do get flint hand axes found across the downs. They can just be lying around in a field, and some of them go back that sort of far. You've got at least 500,000 years of human history and activity on the landscape that we now call Kent. Those origins of Kentish distinctiveness, even the name Kent and the tribal name Cantiaci, that's all pre-Roman, prehistoric, goes back a long way. I suppose one of the big things that makes big impacts that Kent in a way has had is religion. Because it was here in 597 AD that Augustine landed on a mission from the Pope in Rome, Pope Gregory, to convert the English, the Anglo-Saxons, to Christianity. Even before Augustine arrived in Kent, there was a Christian presence here in Canterbury. Augustine had been instructed by Pope Gregory to go to London, which was the old Roman capital of Britannia, and establish his headquarters church there. So that's what he was aiming to do. But he landed in East Kent, and East Kent the Kingdom of Kent at that time was probably the most powerful of the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, and certainly the one in closest contact with the Christian Franks. London at that time was not a particularly significant place. It had fallen into ruin, wasn't completely abandoned, but it wasn't a central place. And it was probably under Kentish control. So when Augustine met King Ethelbert and they negotiated what would happen next, Ethelbert said, no, you don't set up in London. You set up at my capital, which is Canterbury. For a while, Canterbury is the only place in England where you've actually got people who can write and record history and details on paper rather than just sort of stories being passed on by word of mouth. Kent's unique nature and identity continues to be very much rooted in its position at the shortest crossing to the continent and being surrounded by sea and being a coastal maritime county as it's always been.
In the studio with me, I have a young archaeologist currently studying in the area. Thank you for joining us, Connor.
Thank you for having me.
And how are you?
I'm alright, we've just been on a dig today, so a little bit tired.
So why is Kent's history so special?
Well, Kent has such a vibrant history, dating back pre-Roman. We see the fall of Rome and we see Kent rebuilding itself faster than anywhere else in the country. We get the Kingdom of Kent under the Bredwalders, which becomes the dominant force in England. We also see organised religion return to the country through Canterbury, which is the capital of Kent.
And how have we, with religion and all that sort of stuff, how have we found anything that is particularly your favourite?
Well, not strictly to do with religion, but I have found a couple of years back this sword, which we believe belonged to an overking, one of the Bredwalders of Kent, Erisdar. As you can see, it's a little bit rusted now, but that's because it dates back to around 600 AD.
And what can we learn from this sort of thing?
Well, we can learn that the society was very much warrior-based at the time, even though the religious influence was starting to come in. As you can see by the finery that would have been on the blade through the gold infill, that must have been a very expensive thing to make, but a very fine tool.
And the rust that's just on the edge just here, will that eventually go, or?
What we're likely to do is try and get a recreation made of the blade using techniques from the time. However, if we try and get rid of the rust on this sword, we will most likely damage it and sort of lose what's on the find and the detail. So unfortunately, I think this will have to stay rusted.
Well, there we go. Now, we all love a bit of music, especially when we're out and about. So we went to the city centre of Canterbury to meet some street performers. Here's Martin Barr with the report.
Very nice, isn't it?
Welcome to Canterbury, the seat of the Church of England, cultural capital of Kent, home to the Marlow Theatre, and a great place to hear theatre here on the streets. Here's Dave Ellis.
I've been roaming around, always looking down at all I see. Painted faces fill the spaces I can't reach. You know I could use somebody.
Much as people like to hear live entertainment on the streets, the City Council has introduced a new code of conduct which wants to restrict them and cut out amplification altogether. What does Dave Ellis think?
On the whole, the idea is to make it a more even playing field for all the performers, and I guess that can't be a bad thing.
And what do you see as for the future for street performers in Canterbury?
We'll have to wait and see, but I hope they don't introduce more restrictions, because like I said, I do feel like it's quite an integral part of the vibe of the city and the energy going on, so I hope they don't restrict it any more than they already have. On the other hand, there'll be more and more people who are performing in the street, so even in the last few years when I've been doing it, I've seen a big increase, which leads to more competition and sort of arguments and stuff, so we'll have to wait and see for that one. Only time will tell.
Interesting. But what do the people of Canterbury think?
Just fun, you know, it's good. They should be encouraged and supported if they could, yeah.
I think they do add something to the town, but I think they do need to be monitored, because I think people do take advantage, basically.
Some of them are so talented, aren't they? They should be recognised. There's some good ones, aren't there?
I think that street performance brings a lot of culture, depending on, I mean, there's a lot of different sort of styles. I mean, you get some pretty weird guy walking around with a dragon, I don't know what he's doing.
So, street performance, part of Canterbury's cultural fabric or a noise nuisance? You decide.
And I've been roaming around, always looking down at all I see.
And in the studio we have with us a fantastic young talent from the local area, Lydia Maddox. Hello Lydia.
Hiya, you're right.
I'm very well, how are you?
I'm okay, thank you.
Now that the council have put in these new guidelines, I'd like to get your views on them.
Yep, sure. So since the guidelines have come in, the atmosphere has kind of changed in Canterbury, for performers anyway.
And how did you get into street performing?
Well, I was when I first moved down to Canterbury as a student, I saw a few people performing around. I was a bit nervous, came up to them, dropped a bit of money in, and they started talking to me, and I told them that I sang, and they were like, come join us one time.
So do you write your own music that you perform as well, or is it a group collaboration?
I do, yeah, I write my own stuff, but then also I like to play a cover or two, because I think when the crowd or people walking by can relate or recognise a song, they're more likely to be interested.
Do you have your own spot that you sort of play at, or do you go all over the high street of Canterbury?
Yeah, sometimes, you know, I mean, kind of near Santander and, where is it, like Pizza Hut, stuff like that. And sometimes the subways, because you get a lot of traffic coming that way.
That's good. It's quite enjoyable. It's quite an enjoyable experience for you as well at the same time.
Definitely, I think it makes you stronger. Definitely, if you can play to people that don't want to hear Or actually, you can make someone's day better if they're feeling a bit glum and they walk past you and you're like, yeah, I'm playing a happy song.
Is there someone that you aspire to perform like?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know, sometimes I get kind of nervous when I perform, but I really like people like Lily Allen, Licky Lee, Azealia Banks, those kind of people that just they're really confident and they just do what they're doing.
Well, thank you very much, Lydia. We will see you again at the end of the show where you'll perform for us. Now, many counties we have visited have had some great local specialties, and here it is no different. In this week's cooking section, we will show you how to make Kentish huffkins. Enjoy.
Sprinkle dried yeast into the milk and warm water with a pinch of sugar to feed the yeast. Add flour, salt and sugar to a bowl. Add the butter and rub in. You can either do this with your fingertips or blitz it in a food processor. Make a well in the centre and add the milk and yeast mixture. Beat well together. You want to end up with a dough that leaves the side of your bowl clean. Turn out onto a floured surface and knead well for 10 minutes until you've got a dough that's smooth and elastic. To test this, you can take a small piece of dough and stretch it out until you can see a light through it. Put it in the bowl and cover the bowl with a damp tea towel and leave it somewhere warm for an hour or so until it's doubled in size. Take it out of the bowl and knead gently for 3 to 5 minutes until it's smooth. Leave these to prove for a further 30 minutes. Meanwhile, preheat the oven to 220 degrees, gas mark 7. Once fully proved, make an indentation in the centre of each bun with your thumb and bake at 220 degrees centigrade, gas mark 7, for 15 to 20 minutes until golden brown. These Kentish huffkins are traditionally served with steamed fruit, but make an equally tasty treat served with a generous serving of jam and a nice cup of tea at tea time.
Now, we've just had some Kentish huffkins brought into the studio, so Connor, if you'd like to dig in and try one,
Don't mind
by
if
all
I do.
means.
Thank you.
What do you think of it so far?
They're really very nice. Very nice.
Really fluffy pastry, I
yeah.
think. And we've also got some Pluckley tea in your mug just there. That's Pluckley, and it's come from Ashford. What do you think of that?
Well, that goes really well with the huffkins, actually. Very nice.
They are from Haunted Woods as well. So,
All right.
Can you taste the spooky side to it?
I think it's definitely there, a little bit there, yeah.
Well, that's almost it for today. Join us again next week where we'll be moving along the coast to Sussex. Here's Lydia Maddox to play you out. Thank you and goodbye.
It's funny how they pretend to be off and no one's around. Tiptoeing on eggshells for too long, you'll hear the sound of despair. You didn't care for love, you were all about the stupid, stupid stuff. La la la, la la la, la la la, la la la, love, love, love. Got me singing la 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 la. I'm so fit up, love. Got me singing la 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 love. I'm so fit up, love. 'Cause it's funny how they pretend to be off and no one's around. Tiptoeing on eggshells for too long, you'll hear the sound of despair.